So this is my zine page. I know it's very small and hard to read, so I have just a little accompanying essay that I'm going to share that goes along with it. And it's called Eligibility Factors. What do you declare? What do you deny? 2020 was the year that the last of my babushki and dyadushki passed into ancestorhood. I read the eulogy for my babushka Lyuba in Russian and English, and it felt like the scariest performance of my life. After the funeral, I came home and started looking through my grandparents' things. I found my dyadushka Venya's briefcase hidden in a bedroom closet. My mama put it there because she knew. At first, I didn't recognize what it was. A busted old briefcase from the Soviet Union being held together by a belt. I kind of thought it was a joke. When I opened it, memories flooded back. I saw all of my family's important documents: Soviet passports, birth certificates, marriage licenses, applications for food stamps, along with this envelope declaring our refugee status. When I was 7, I remember asking my babushka Lyuba why we were moving to America. She told me, "Is it тебя? For you, so you can be better." I was often sick as a child. Some thought it was because I was only 2 years old during the Chernobyl nuclear power plant explosion, when all of Belarus was covered with toxic waste. I remember that moment, feeling the pain of guilt, believing that it was my fault we were leaving behind everything we knew and loved. I felt in my body deep rupture in my family that would continue to bleed for years, that we were being ripped from our Rodina forever. I asked my mama why we didn't go to Israel. A handful of our relatives had already immigrated there in the 70s. And she told me what her aunt had told her. Tam мы были Zhydi, тут мы русские, which is what I wrote on the envelope. A rough translation is, there in the Soviet Union, we were Zhydi, which is Polish for Jew, but for us, that's basically what you hear right before you're about to be beat up. And here in Israel, we're Russians, which means we're lower class status. And we're also this identity that was never afforded to us in the Soviet Union. It's a further othering, displacement, disorientation. In my version of the quote, which I wrote in English, I crossed out the word Russian and wrote white, because that's what we became, legally and socially, assimilated, homogenized, privileged, unrecognizable as having a culture or past. As I look further into the envelope, I found our application for the refugee interviews, our resettlement documents, a notification from Pan American, the airline that was supposed to take us to New York and went out of business the night before our flight, as well as my grandparents' applications for Holocaust reparations from the Swiss government. In these documents, they had to describe in great detail the material damages that were done to them by their families, by the Nazi regime. How many were killed? How many were forced into slave labor? What was stolen and what was destroyed? Reading this was chilling and informative as I now embark on doing reparations work here in Chicago with my Jewish congregation at Tzedek. This final document that I found was my grandfather's citizenship application. Within it, there was a long list of additional eligibility factors. The first question states, are you now, or have you ever been, or in any way connected to or associated with the Communist Party, or knowingly aided the Communist Party directly or indirectly through another organization, group, or person, or ever advocated, taught, or believed in, or knowingly supported or furthered the interests of communism? When filling out his Holocaust reparations documents, my dyadushka Venya declared his entire family. His parents, grandparents, and 4 siblings were all killed by the Nazis. There's no way to know exactly what happened on that day in 1941, but what's left of his Polish shtetl is brick chimneys. The $4,500 he received from the Swiss government was the maximum compensation given to survivors. It amounts to approximately $562.50 per family member killed. All of this he gave to his grandchildren. My grandfather escaped death because he was at university, and he eventually made it to Belarus, where he got a new job at a factory and eventually rose up in the ranks to become a top official in the local Communist Party. He became a deputy of internal trade for the Soviet Social Republic of Belarus. That's how we got our dacha, that's how we got our car, and that's how we ultimately got our refugee status and our green card. I asked my mom about this point, and she clarified for me that if you want to become a citizen of this country, the correct answer for all of these eligibility factors is no. Of course, none of us were communists, and none of us were Nazis. We were all good, neutral citizens that should have entrance and protections here. As a result of these conversations, I decided to rewrite the eligibility factors for myself, which is what you see on the right. And I'll just read a couple. Are you now, or have you ever been, or in any way connected to or associated with the Capitalist Party, or ever knowingly aided the Capitalist Party directly or indirectly through another organization, group, or person, or ever advocated, taught, believed in, or knowingly supported or furthered the interests of capitalism? During the period of 1492 through 1890, did you serve in, or were you or your ancestors in any way affiliated with, or directly or indirectly have any military unit, war campaign, raid, forced removal, ethnic cleansing, or genocide of Native American people? Do you and your ancestors participate and benefit from the theft of Native American land, cultures, languages, and/or spiritual practices? Do you currently have relationships with, support, or advocate for reparations of Native American people, land, culture, and sovereignty? During the period of 1526 to 1865, do you and your ancestors participate in, were affiliated with, or have direct or indirect connections to the transatlantic slave trade? Do you or your ancestors participate in or benefit from the theft of African American people, property, culture, languages, or spiritual practices? Do you currently have relationships with, support, or advocate for reparations of African American people, land, or culture? During the period of 1897 to 2020, do you or your ancestors participate in, are affiliated with, or directly benefit from Zionism? Do you or your ancestors participate in or benefit from the occupation of the Palestinian state or the displacement of Palestinian people? Do you currently have relationships with, support, or advocate for the reparations of Palestinian people, land, culture, and sovereignty? Have you at any time, anywhere, ever ordered, incited, assisted, or otherwise participated in or benefited from settler colonialism or white supremacy? Have you or your ancestors at any time, anywhere, been harmed by settler colonialism or white supremacy? Have you at any time, anywhere, considered or taken action to repair the generational trauma and structural harm caused by white supremacy and settler colonialism?
Wow. No, on that note,